Hawaii is my second home. I lived there for about 5 years, and this is where I first started my professional career as an art dealer. So it is especially dear to my heart. I feel like my second home is Hawaii. And for any of you that have actually traveled to the islands, there's really no place on earth like it. I mean, the smell of the ocean, the flowers, everything, it's really an incredible and an intoxicating space. So I thought, you know what, you guys deserve to go on a little vacation. I know that you've been cooped up at home as I have been, and this is going to be a real virtual vacation. So I hope you sit back. If you want, you can take a little break, go in the kitchen, pour yourself a little bit of an orange juice drink, something that makes you feel like you're sitting poolside with your Mai Tai. And we're going to bring in two amazing talents. Both are locals from Oahu who have lived on the islands for their entire lives. The first gentleman that we're going to bring on is Michael Cheape. Michael grew up on the North Shore. So if any of you folks have been to Oahu, that's where, you know, the big waves come in. That's where they have the Masters every year. It's pretty awesome. If you ever get a chance to see it, it's pretty, like, you can't even believe these guys can surf these huge waves. But he's been a musician since the time he was a young guy. And then he started really catching his passion right before he went to college, and he's been bit by the bug ever since. So we're going to have him on first. And then a dear friend of mine that I've known for, dating myself, 30 years now, Roy Tabora, who is an internationally acclaimed artist. His works are shown all over the world. He's been painting professionally for 30 years and is probably one of the most incredible seascape artists I've ever seen. And some of you are watching out there know what I'm talking about. So we'll have Roy on. But let's see if we can get Michael here, live stream on the show. And let's see here. Let's see if this works. And there you are, but you're sideways.
I'm sideways. Is it sideways for you guys?
You need to turn the camera the other way, or we're gonna have to watch you like this.
All right. I'm right, but I'll flip it for you guys here. Sorry.
Don't be, because this is an ongoing process, as the folks know. So aloha.
Hello.
Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine. Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the show here. Why don't you share a little bit with the folks here about yourself? And I gave a little bit of a background, but you know, it's always good coming from the artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. You know, as you were saying, I was born and raised here in Hawaii and lived most of my life on the North Shore. My dad was in the sugar industry back when Hawaii was covered with sugar, but fields. But music has been a big part of my life, and I've kind of kept it going throughout having kids. And I was a school teacher at Nanakuli High School on the west side for 30 years. And so anyway, it's just been like as you were saying, a passion. And so it's given me the chance to stay active in it. And I'm glad I've been able to actually play in a lot of the gallery activities they've had, or when they've had artists in the at the Tabora galleries. That I've played for a lot of their gallery functions. So and Roy and I have been friends since like 1980. So it's been a treat to be able to do that.
Oh, that's great. And I know that, you know, when you've been a local there in the islands for your whole life, but, you know, music is such an important part of the culture there. I mean, that's kind of one of the essence of being in Hawaii.
Yep.
So
we all on campuses growing in high school, there were guitars. I know the kids, I got to teach a music class at Nanakuli High School. And, you know, like you said, music is a big part of what they call kanakapila, just kind of hanging out and jamming in the backyard. You all sort of sitting in chairs and playing together. So music is definitely a big part of the existence here.
Well, I'm excited to have you transform us to the islands today, Aloha Friday. So I'm going to give you the screen here, and we're going to just sit back and absorb the energy coming all the way from, you know, this side. I'm pointing to the west here. So let me bring my screen down there. There you go.
All right. And here's a song that we were influenced by. especially group in Hawaii, a group called Sicilian Kapono, and it's probably a song that's real appropriate today, and it's a song that called Friends. So I'm going to do that for you. It's nice to see familiar faces out in the crowd. It's nice to see friends of mine enjoying themselves. 'Cause everybody get happy, 'cause we can work it out. We are friends, friends, friends. We are friends, everybody, friends, friends. 'Cause I remember when I was down without you. 'Cause I remember when you said, friend, hey, what's your name? Getting off on each other, 'cause we can work it out. We are friends, friends, friends. We are friends, everybody, friends, friends. Feelings are getting strong. You feel like you belong. The closest that you feel, smiles that are real. If you feel like singing, if you feel it, sing out loud. And if it makes you feel good just to sing right out, being a part of it all, 'cause we can work it out. We are friends, friends, friends. We are friends, everybody, friends, friends. We are friends, friends, friends. Even if we're remotely, we're friends. Oh, sorry, Ruth. I see you, but I don't hear you.
Myself here.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, there we are. Sorry, I wanted to make sure that I didn't have any distraction there, but I was just sharing that what a great song, because I think right now we've all recognized how much our friends mean to us. And that is really the spirit of aloha. So before you start the next song, I was just curious, how are things going for you with, I know that you play music professionally, and I know that you probably, a lot of your events have been canceled. How are you coping with the changes in the last month and a half?
Well, you just have to deal with what it is. And so I've, been able to spend a little energy even doing recording or just practicing things that I normally get a chance to do. Or so it's not like I look at it. Yes, there's a lot of lost opportunities for I do a lot of weddings and things like that. But there's a lot of them are actually being postponed, and some of it's kind of neat because they're actually being postponed. They've waited this long, but they're being postponed to, like, let's say April 2021. So it's interesting. But I know I play at Roy's Colina um, 2 Thursdays, and at this Wakalake Country Club. But yeah, that's been on hold, and that's just what it is. So,
Right. And do you have children?
yes, and I'd like to kind of highlight my two wonderful children. My daughter Lauren Matsumoto. Now she was a 2011 Miss Hawaii and went on to Miss America. And after she competed in that, decided to run for office, and at age 24 got elected to the House of Representatives, and she's this her fourth term, and two grandchildren, and a son who was a former University of Hawaii volleyball player who went on and played pro ball in Greece and has come back now, and he's just recently married and firefighter. So um,
That's that's so great. What a beautiful family, and you must be a pretty good dad and mom to raise kids that are really blessing the world with their talents.
yes, no, we're real fortunate. My wife, whose family's had an egg farm twice since 1910. So my daughters and son are sixth generation, and the grandson is seventh generation. So the family is her side has been here since the 1850s, and so real deep, long-standing sort of neat service. They still provide eggs to the community. That even right now, eggs have become kind of a little bit like toilet paper.
I know. I was going to ask, do they have any hoarders? People
Oh, yeah.
driving up in pickups with, egg crates in the back?
Well, it's close. They have gotten to the point where it is drive-through. They'll come out and with the mask and gloves and bring it to your car. There's no getting out of your car. But yes, people are definitely uh, buying eggs. I guess toilet paper and eggs are a hot commodity here. So, but yes, it's been neat that the kids have been able to see that part of the being raised sort of an ag in Hawaii, the agricultural in Hawaii side of they've
Oh,
helped.
that's a rich history. I love that. And for any of you folks who have spent any time in Hawaii, there's still, there's the tourist portion, but then there's still kind of the back outside areas where people are still, carrying on the traditions, which I think is such a beautiful thing. And you clearly are in your music. So, do you have another song for us?
Well, I said I wasn't going to try it, but well, no, actually, because you came from, I think I will, because you mentioned that you were when you lived here, you were on the windward side.
I will.
Another big before was a group called Olamana, and they did a song called Ku'uhomio Kahalu, which is basically my home in on the east side, a place called Kahalu. So I'd like to do that. That's
Beautiful.
okay.
Okay,
All
that's
right.
great.
Cause I remember days when we were younger. We used to catch oku in the mountain stream. Round the cold hills we ran on horseback. So long ago it seemed it was a dream. Last night I dreamt I was returning, and my heart called out to you. But I fear you won't be like I left you. Make it aloha, cause I remember days when we were wiser, when the world was small enough for dreams. And you were lingered there, my sister, and I no longer care to see. Last night I dreamt I was returning, and my heart called out to you. But I fear you won't be like I left you. Make aloha, kuhomio, change is a strange thing, it cannot be denied. It can help you find yourself and make you lose your ride. Move with it slowly as on the road we go. Please not alone, we all must go alone. I remember days when we were small. We used to sing and laugh all night long. And I will greet you as I find you, with the sharing of a brand new song. Last night a trip I was returning, and my heart called out to you. Please accept me as you find me. Tequila hakuhonio kalu. Tequila hakuhonio kalu.
Beautiful. Okay, that did it for me, Michael. I'm moving back. That's it. After this is all done, I'm back in the islands.
Well, good. Thank you.
Oh, boy, that just transported me back to Lanikai, sitting out there looking at the Twin Mountains there out of the ocean. And wow, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now, can folks find your, do you have a CD or anything if they want to listen more to your music?
Yeah, thank you. I do have on YouTube, but if I will promo a little something real quickly, I was telling you last night that I wrote a song a long time ago called The Wayfinder about how Nainoa Thompson on the Hokulea learned basically the trade of how to wayfind using the stars and nature. And I wrote it a long time ago, and finally, with my daughter, the legislature with Nainoa said, let me hear that song. And so I finally got a demo together, and he came over to the house and really loved it. And so I did cut it with, the engineer was a guy named DJ Pratt, who was a guitarist and original founder of a group called Kalapana here in Hawaii. And so it's out there on all digital formats. And it's called The Wayfinder, W-A-Y. It sounds like I'm saying wave, but it's actually a way, W-A-Y finder. So,
and where can you find it?
It's on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and actually YouTube. There is if you search my name, you can't forget a last name, Cheape, C-H-E-A-P-E. But it's called The Wayfinder, and but other than that, it's on all the digital formats. So
that's fabulous. Yeah, we'll definitely look that up. What's the premise of the song? Can you give us a little insight?
Yeah, I thank you. I read the book about it, and I decided to try to capture the essence of what Nainoa was going through as the wayfinder. And even he told me himself, the doctors basically said, I don't know how you're alive, because for the 30 days that it took coming back from Tahiti to Hawaii, he doesn't basically sleep. And so, and at one point in the song, it talks about him being when they finally find land, he gets a little depressed because he realized his job, he's had to stay focused for this whole time, is over. And he kind of lets go, and then he's on the boat. He doesn't know what to do with himself. He said, I just flounder on the boat. I don't know what to do, because he's had to be focused for so long to be able to find Hawaii, basically using nothing but the natural elements, stars, wave motions. And it's incredible. So anyway,
we'll definitely listen to that. That's kind of a good word for us today too, because we, in our own way, we're navigating this completely different world where we are, we don't have the privileges that we once did to just leave and, go down to the store and do all of these things without having to take precautions. And we're kind of having to have that same experience in a much lesser way, but just staying focused, I think, on what's important. And I think that's actually a beautiful thing.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. So,
Well,
But
thank you for
that's
being on here. It's been really so beautiful on a Friday to hear your music.
oh, well, thank you, and what a treat! This is my first to do kind of a live thing like this, and so like I said, navigating uncharted waters. Here's one for me. So, but thank you for having
Well,
me.
thank you. Be blessed. And thank you so much again for coming on the show. And I'm sure we'll have you again. Hopefully, we'll get through this sooner than later. But if not, this could just be a regular gig for all of us.
Sounds good. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Be blessed. Aloha.
Aloha. We'll see you then.
Bye. Okay. So we're back. And let me just take this out. That was so beautiful, beautiful. That second song I'm familiar with, so it brings back a lot of really great memories for me when I was much, much younger. And speaking of being younger, one of the artists that has had the greatest impression on my life as someone who started like I did in this industry 30 years ago, you know, who's really pushed through and really impacted the entire world from the islands is the next guest on the show, Roy Tabora. And Roy's work, it's not only the fact that it is really some of the most incredible seascape art you'll ever see. He's capable of painting anything, but he really focuses on the seascape. It's also the technique that he's using, and he pulls a lot of the technique from the Dutch masters that did all of these beautiful glazing. So, you know, it's hard to see through the screen. You get to see some of it, but when you see it in person, it's 20 times greater than the impact. So you're going to love what you see here. But I met Roy when I was in my 20s and just starting in the art business. And he used to come along to where I was working in the gallery. He was in other galleries, and I think he was maybe even showing at that time on the zoo fence where a lot of famous artists in Honolulu started. And we would talk in the gallery, and then next thing I know, a few years later, his artwork just exploded. And now he is an internationally very famous artist, and I'm super blessed to have him on the show today. So let me see if I can get Roy up here in the stream. Ta-da! Hi, Roy.
Hey,
How you
Ruth-Ann, how are
doing?
you?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just, you know, building a little bit of your pedigree because you remember when we were much younger and we were both trying to figure out this whole thing, me as an art dealer, you as an
Right,
artist. But
right.
it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and I don't think we're done.
Absolutely not done for
It's
sure.
just hard for me to believe that we would get this far just to get this far. It's like, no, that doesn't sound right.
I
We're gonna
know.
keep going. We're gonna keep going.
Well, we're obviously having a good time because the time has flown by very
Sure.
quickly. So share a little bit with the folks. I know you've got a lot of your collectors watching. Many people know who you are, but share a little bit about, you know, your passion for what you create and why you create what you create.
Okay. Well, I am of the school of follow your heart. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Very, very challenging in so many aspects. But I'm a third generation painter, so it is not as if I broke ranks and started to do something different than what the previous generations have done. In fact, I loved the whole deal, and I knew I loved it before I kind of maybe even understood what love is. I was just preoccupied with everything, and so it just became very natural for me to listen to my inner self and admit that there wasn't anything I'd rather do than this. And like I was like telling people like when it was time for my girls to maybe get a little bit of advice from the old man, I just said, look, I'm going to be upfront with you guys. Daddy didn't have a plan B. So plan A had to work, and I put everything into it and loved it until it loved me back.
I love that. I'd heard someone had mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger said, if you've got a plan B, then plan A sucks.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good one.
Well, it's just you're giving yourself an out, right? And it's kind of
Mhm.
like, and it probably doesn't work in the practical sense, but as an example, if you're on a high wire act and you have a safety net below, yeah, your concentration may be compromised. But I tell you what, if you didn't have that net, the amount of focus you will have, it's going to be unequaled. That may be a terrible example, but it certainly gets the message across.
You know
Um,
what I call that example? Welcome to the art world.
yeah, well, I tell you what, like I always said, it's like, you know what, if I'm going to go off the cliff, I'm going to be driving. I will not be the passenger. I just believe that there is a way to make what God blessed me with work. And I always looked at things as a puzzle and not a problem, because I know that puzzles inherently have a solution. I just may
Mhm.
not know it right now, but I'm going to solve it one way or the other.
Well, and
And
your work is a testament to that because when I look at your work and other people that I've spoke to, I mean, it is about as perfect as it possibly. I can't imagine you can actually build on that. Some people know your work, some people don't, but I mean, it's so intricate in every detail of what you create. It's kind of mind-boggling in a way to think that anyone can do that.
yeah, well, thank you. You're very generous with that, and I tell you what, I wouldn't be where I am without the help and assistance and insistence and cheering on by a lot of people, starting with my parents. They
Mm.
just did not want me to compromise on things that I ought to not, and just perseverance. And you know this better than anybody. When once you believe in yourself and what your abilities are, and that you're not done, and you're going to continue to amass all kinds of skill sets, and you're going to take it to heights that you couldn't even imagine just because you're working it. It's just basically, betting on yourself, right? and
Yeah.
and um, and betting big, because
Mhm.
we're gonna go through this one time that we know of, and you gotta lay it on the line.
That's it.
Right? If you're gonna fail,
Mhm.
fail big.
That's it. Well,
Right?
show the folks what you've been working on. We're so
Okay.
excited to see your work.
Okay. Well, the latest project I'm doing is a commission of the North Shore of Kauai. This area is called Kalalau. And for those that are traveling around Kauai, maybe not so much nowadays, but in the past and in the future, you'll get to a place called the Kalalau Lookout, and then you would be like over here and looking down into the valley. But this shot is from the ocean looking inward, and it's commissioned by some friends of mine that are really they love Kauai, and I do too. It's my favorite island. And so that's the latest thing, and I'm almost done. I can see the finish line, but and just like typically, whenever I see the finish line, I see a lot of things that need to be fixed before I get there. So I've been kind of pawing at it and just making little adjustments, which make big differences as far as the final look. But
It's gorgeous.
yeah,
Is there a way that you
and
can
I'm
pull?
here in my studio, which was designed by my dad. He passed on. Was it 17 years ago? But he was an architect, and so, well, you know what? If there was anybody that was kind of concerned about my career choice, it was him. Right? He was a very practical man, and very, very concerned about how my life was going to be. And my mom, of course, is where all the artists are in the family, and so she was going, "Hey, let the boy follow his heart." And but Dad was going, "Why are you going to fund your life?" Right? And but somehow, it wasn't a choice of either or. Right? You can do both. You can be smart about things and be careful about things, but always knowing that what you're tailor made to do. And so, but we were an immigrant family, right? So most of my youth was spent with my mom, and my dad was overseas working. So he wasn't physically in our lives, although spiritually he was the one that was making sure everything was going really well at home. But so we didn't spend a lot of time as young kids with their dad. No, we didn't play catch, we didn't go fishing, but near the end, we had an opportunity. I'd saved a couple of bucks, and I thought, you know what, just like every artist that I know, you'd want your own space. And
Yes.
so we had a lot of things lined up nicely, and up here on the North Shore where I live, and where I live up in Pupukea, it's acreage, so there's plenty of room to build. And so I asked him if he would design me a studio, and he said, yeah. So we were absolutely thrilled that we could at least spend father and son moments, me and my brother as well.
That's wonderful.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And so now every time I'm in the mood, I sense him in this space. And
Oh,
it's a little thing that, you didn't count on, but hey, there it is, right? There it
it's
is.
great. So we want to see some of your beautiful artwork. Is there a way that you can take your camera and show us some of your pieces?
Sure, sure. I think what I'll do is I'll just point it. I'm not very good at this thing, so I'll just point
That's
it.
okay.
All right, like this guy right here this is a collaboration piece that I did with a good friend of mine, Coco Angel. We show her work at the galleries, but as you had mentioned before, I really love doing all kinds of subject matter, and when an opportunity came to revisit some of the ones that I hadn't done in a while, I jumped all over it, and so this is a still
Beautiful.
life. Yeah, thank you. And it's very exciting. I love the ocean, and I don't think that'll ever change. But to be able to revisit some of the subject matter that I used to do was awesome. Let's see what else is going on. Well, most of what I got going on is the oceanscapes. There's my drying rack where pieces that are in different stages of completion go while they dry, and then I get back to them. That's pretty much about it.
I'd love to show the folks, if you have one of your kind of quintessential Roy Tabora seascapes.
Oh,
I'd love
okay.
for folks, because some people who are watching, they haven't seen your work. They
Sure.
may have heard of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Here's a. I'll show this one. Here's a kind of a golden one.
Oh my gosh, look at that, folks.
I'm not sure if that's translating well, but
Yes, we can see it. It's
okay. All right.
so beautiful.
There's one. Let me see what else we got here.
This is the treat to get behind the scenes. Now, had this virus not happened, we wouldn't be able to go into people's homes and
Right.
kind of get the back behind the curtain look at these artists.
Right. Okay. Here's another one. That's a rainbow piece. These are 9-inch by 12-inch canvases. Okay.
Oh, gorgeous.
Thanks. And so let's see what else we got here. Oh, here's a good one. Oops.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
So what's really nice about your work, Roy, is you can just be in your home. You come back from the islands and you can transport into your artwork anytime you want. It's like a window to another place.
Well, I tell you, it's just like it's great that you had Mike on earlier, because I've always thought and felt that art and music are rooted in the same place, right? They when done a certain way, they can reach out and affect people in ways that they didn't think was possible. It's kind of like being in love, right? I mean, you don't go out, you don't go out and going, hey, you know what, today, let's see, I'm gonna fall in love today. No, you can't do that. You can't plan that thing, but when it happens, it's so awesome that you can't really compare it to anything. It's such a unique experience, and that was the thing that attracted me to art. Other than the smell of paint,
Hmm.
that I thought, wow, there's something in life that is not so much so practical, and yet it was so powerful to have it in your life, right? So one way or the other, well, art or music, one is audio, one is visual, but
Right.
yeah, but it summons something within you that other things cannot do. And
Agreed.
right, and so yeah, that's why when we are involved in what we do in our lives, whether it's a hobby or for a living, it's much more than that, right? That's just the practical application of things, but the emotional aspect of it is unlike anything else.
It's true. And I think that's something that, the folks watching here are all very much in tune with the power of art and the power of the emotion that it evokes and the importance of actually cultivating that and bringing that into your life. But I did have a collector one time who wasn't a collector until I explained this, walk into the gallery and ask me, well, do you really need art? And I said, well, do you really need music? But once you're exposed to it, you could never go back. And so art
Right.
brings something into your life that once you have felt the power of that visual,
Hmm.
then um, you could never not have that in your life.
I agree. And a lot of people don't realize that art is more prevalent than music, actually. It doesn't get the award shows every year on TV. But I tell you what, your car did not get to where it got without art being involved. Your book covers, your clothes, everything, the design of your house, art is everywhere. It's so everywhere, it seems like it's nowhere. But it's there, right? There's every aspect of any product whatsoever before it hits the market. The art people got involved with it, and it's just so prevalent, like I said, that it seems like, yeah, it's not in everything. No, it's everywhere. You just don't realize it.
Right. So Roy, when you put a canvas up on your easel and you're getting ready to start a painting in that execution, what happens to your mind at that point?
Oh, okay. Well, even before I put the canvas on the easel, I do my painting in my head first, right? I try to arrive at what uh, the visual outcome will be. All right, that's one. And also how it's supposed to make me feel at the end of it, right? And so that will be my guide as to how I'm going to start it and how I'm going to finish it, because those two things are my target, right? And so that way, having identified a target, I can easily see if I missed, or am I close, or did I get a bullseye, right? And of course, we're aiming for the bullseye every time.
Right.
Yeah, but the idea is to plan the thing, but I plan loosely. Because I learned a long time ago that, you know what, there are certain things that might come up during your journey that wasn't part of how you drew it up, and yet it is better than anything you thought of at that time. And so I make room for that. I used to resist that when I was much younger and didn't know much. And I would always want to follow the plan that I mapped out. But there came a time, one time, that wasn't in the mood for any pushback from the canvas. I said, oh, okay, you want to go there? Let's go there. Right. And
So
it
you're
turned
having
out
a
great. And it
dialogue.
turned out great.
You're
And so,
actually having a dialogue with your creation.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It is that, right? The creation is basically whatever's in me trying to come out and register itself on the surface of the canvas, right? And so, and that's why I can't give up on the canvas, is because it's like giving up on myself, right? And so I
Right.
take it very, very personally, and I think that attitude adds to my perfectionism. And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just an attitude. And But it helps guide me in the right direction, and I can be honest to say, hey, you know what, that you're still a couple hours away from where it needs to be. And
Right.
maybe I'm the only one that sees that and knows that, but hey, that's all I need, right? Is just to be honest.
So let
and
me
a little
ask
bit of
you a
psychology.
question. I'm going to bring myself back up here because I feel like
Okay,
I'm
sure.
there. There we go. So what do you think that you've extracted from your environment? You've lived in Hawaii your whole life. Um,
Well, actually, not my whole life.
okay.
It seems that way because I've been here for a long time. But actually, in my conscience, I transferred universities is how I got here. I
Okay.
started out at Washington State University from having graduated high school in Guam, right? And we moved to Guam when I was 12, away from the Philippines, and that's to join my dad after he'd been gone since I was 3.
Okay.
Occasionally coming back to visit every once in a while. And then 9 years later, we were all reunited under one roof in Guam. And that's where I graduated high school and went to the mainland for a couple of years, but stopped in Hawaii on the way there with my dad because he wanted to visit some friends. And I go, yeah, okay, let's do that. And I got here. And at the airport, Ruth-Ann, at the airport, I'm going, man, I feel like I just got home. What is this? It's a new feeling for me for an 18-year-old. And I'm going, that's not right. I'm supposed to research, analyze, and then come
Right.
to a conclusion, then act on the conclusion. And now I got the conclusion, but I got no data, right? I don't know this place. And yet it's making me feel like I've been here forever. And I just came
That's
home.
wonderful. And
It was awesome.
I don't think you're alone.
Yeah,
I'd probably still be there myself,
right.
had life not taken another turn. But when I
Sure.
go to the islands, I certainly feel that same
Oh,
energy.
I believe you. I believe
And,
you.
and
Absolutely.
so how long have you lived there then now?
Well, I moved here in 77.
Okay.
Right. And so, and I've been showing professionally since 82. You mentioned it at the Zoo Fence.
Right.
Right. And I was there for a year before I got picked up by some galleries. And then the rest of the time is the life of an artist, right? You just go from gallery to gallery and do some shows, meet people, and exactly what I wrote about in one of my papers in high school when they were asking us to visualize what you're going to do, after when you're all grown up, right? And that's what I envisioned. But it wasn't a stretch because, like I said, my family members were artists, so I was drawing on my experience at the time and what I wanted to be a part of, and that's what it was.
That's wonderful. So
It
do
was
you
great.
think your artwork would be different if you had stayed in Washington? Do you think we'd be
Oh,
seeing a
sure.
completely different thing?
I think so. I think so. Certainly, your environment and your experiences are going to shape the decisions that you make. Um, and so, if those things are changed, then the following that process, that thought process, then the conclusion would be different as well. But I think the one thing that will be always present is the personal approach to any project that you have. Right? If
Sure.
you're let's say if you're a perfectionist, then the kind of outcomes you're going to have are going to be born out of that attitude that you have. So it doesn't really matter what you do, you're going to be excellent at it because
But
that's the type of person that you are, right?
right, but as far as historically, like the work that you're doing, it has made an impact on the world and it's very much extracted from your experience living in Hawaii.
Right.
And that work is going to be here forever. It's a historical document of what you're creating, not only because you're just an incredible artist, but because you're so well recognized. You've made your little mark there in history,
Mhm.
which is pretty profound when you think about that. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, I agree. I agree. Like I said, it's there are certain things that are the details of the choices that you make, the ripple effect, as it were. But again, I put a lot of faith in the something that my grandfather had told me when I was learning how to paint at 6 years old, and he was saying something to the effect that what as an artist, as a painter, you are a creator. You create things, right? And your joy is in the act of creating. And he didn't say what I was creating. He was just saying I was creating, right? And so
right.
your joy is in the act of creating. And after that is over, your part of it is over as well, right? Your joy at the easel comes at creation. Your joy doesn't come from the finished product, right? And the joy that you get is not transferable. You can, if you miss it, it's gone forever. So you got to pay attention and go take what is yours, and that is, you know, all the mistakes, all the adjustments, all of that is yours. Plus the prize at the end is yours as well, right? But when it's over, the painting can be moved around. It can be viewed by different people, and people will register their thoughts about it, whatever they may be. But the act of creating it, that's yours, or it's no one else's. And so I really pay attention at the easel to just make sure that I get mine, and then I just leave it there, you know.
Well, we get to also partake in that because as the viewer and as the collector, we're the ones that benefit from that heart that you have to do the very, very best that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, your work, every time that I've seen your work, it will just stop you right where you're at, and you really have to take a moment to bring all that beauty in. So my last question for you is, what about the kids out there? You know, we're in such a different environment now when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
the arts, and now we've got a lot of digital things. I know my daughter, she's
Mm-hmm.
an artist, but she's on the,
Yes.
you know, I don't know what she does,
Yeah.
but she's
Sure.
drawing with the pen on her face,
Sure.
iPad, and all of this.
Right.
What would you share with young people that really have a passion for the arts, but they're not sure, you know, where it's going to lead, what they can actually do with it?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, that's a great question. All right. And that is something that I don't think will ever go away because and I'll tell you what I told my girls, right? What are they? They're 23 and 19 now, right? And what I'd always told them is that, look, you know, society has got a structure um, out there that they're expecting you to plug in somewhere.
Mhm.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, any of that, right? It's very, very convenient. It's available, right? And you can carve out an excellent life doing that, right? So just to make it clear that that's not a bad thing. But I said, if you have a little voice whispering in your ear, I don't believe that's there for no reason, for no good reason. Okay. Because certainly my dad, who was an architect, was trying to convince me to be an architect, right? Um, and I'm going, yeah, you know what? Actually, I do like architecture, but I love this more, right? And so what I told him to do was like, look, um, when the time comes that you're gonna make a decision about what you're gonna do, I said that structure is never gonna go away. But if I were you, if you're in position to do this, bet on yourself first. First, give yourself a chance first because the time that you're allowed or allotted is limited. All right, so you want to do what's best for you during your prime. All right. You don't want to do it like how other people have done it, which is after they retire, they'll do. And I admire these people a lot because usually when they do that, that means they took care of everybody else first. So
True.
my heroes are of that variety, right? Like my dad, right? He could paint, but man, he never got to the easel to set up at our house because he was exhausted from taking care of us,
Sure. Sure.
right? And so but he was not in position to do that. But he did that to get me to be in position. And so now that I was in position, then because of what he did, he laid the groundwork for me to be able to do this. Um, then I kind of owe it to him to really go at it, right? And
So
I was always
you've
telling
taken
my
that
girls,
same thought process and you've ushered that forth with your girls
"Oh,
to
absolutely,
go after the
absolutely."
brass ring, right?
Yeah, go after it right now. All right, don't save it for later because later on you are working with leftover time and leftover energy. All right, and now that might bring you a little joy, but you got to admit those are not your prime time moments. That's leftover stuff you're dealing with. So don't expect to do a lot of great stuff. You could, but the odds are against you. All
Right.
right,
Uh-huh.
right.
You got
Yeah.
to
So
be the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy or Dr. Seuss.
oh, yeah. Well, right. There are always exceptions to the rule. So you want the best odds for yourself, right?
Right.
Because
Oh,
most
that's
of the time it's
beautiful.
going to take some adjustments.
I love that, Roy. And I've always loved you for that. You know, from the time I met you years ago in the gallery, you
Yeah,
know, you were always willing to do whatever it takes
sure.
with your passion. And I think that we have been the benefactors of that as gallerists and collectors, to see somebody who has really created something at the highest level. And I know you're not done yet, but it's a true
Thanks.
blessing to all of
Well,
us.
you're always been very, very generous and very, very kind, and I
Well,
always
it's true.
appreciate it. At least over the years, that part has not changed in the negative direction. And it's always a pleasure to be with you and
Thank
around
you,
you,
Roy.
and being in the same industry as yourself.
Well,
So I
something I'll
appreciate it.
say that Roy and I have had in common, and this has probably in some ways been to our detriment, is that is that we both have a passion for art, and it takes over our passion to make a living a lot of
Yep,
times.
correct.
So we're doing this no matter what, you
Right,
know, come
right,
hell or high water, we're all in. We love
right,
art and we're doing it. So
right.
probably we're both pretty savvy business people. If we would have chosen something else, we probably would have done all right.
I think
But
so.
here we are, and I think that legacy is greater than any money can buy,
I
really.
agree. I agree.
So
I agree. I tell you what, when we get together and summarize the things that we've done in life, I doubt it if we're going to be talking about money. I doubt it.
agreed.
Right?
I agree. I
It's the
agree.
relationships, the experiences, and the people that have enlightened us all along, and that's really you can't put a price tag on that.
No, you
You know,
can't.
right, right.
Well,
So it's
I love
great.
you, Roy.
Love
Thank
you
you so
too.
much for being on the show.
Thank you
Blessings
for
to you
inviting
and your
me. I
family, and
appreciate
the
it.
stream. You'll be able to read the stream after. Everybody's going crazy over your artwork. So if you guys want to go, Roy has a website. Is it Tabora.com or Roy Tabora?
TaboraGallery.com or TaboraStudio.com.
Yeah, so go check it out. You'll be blown away by his work. We have some of his pieces on our website. Hopefully, when all this passes, we can have a show with you here in San Diego. I know we've been talking about it for a long
I
time.
know.
We just couldn't quite make it happen, but
Sure,
we
that's fine.
definitely need to this time.
Confidence is high, Ruth-Ann.
That's
Confidence is
it. That's it.
high.
Okay, blessings to you, Roy.
Aloha.
Okay, aloha.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Roy Tabora, folks. I don't really know. I can't tell you much more than go and check out his artwork. He is a legend and a powerhouse, and has brought so much beauty to the world through his artwork. And it's been one of my great journeys as an art dealer to meet all these amazing artists on the road. And we have all these stories that we remember looking back at when we were younger, trying to figure out this world of art. And here we are 30 years later, still representing artists. And it always comes down to the passion, and it always comes down to the patrons, because without you folks out there supporting the arts, artists like Roy, art galleries like ours, we're not able to do what we do. So it's really, I think, this beautiful triangle, of art dealer, collector, artist, that we bring this thing forward. And the beauty of it is that when we're all no longer on this planet, which will happen at some point, the artwork will remain, and it will bless the next generation, and it'll bless the next generation. So that's why I'm so passionate about art. Once again, happy Friday, Aloha Friday. We'll see you next week. We once again have a great lineup, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m. Starting with an artist on Monday, Michael Guidry. We're going to go down to the Bayou in New Orleans, and he is a fabulous artist that he calls himself a punk rock artist that is taking some of the swamp animals out and creating these incredible paintings. And we're also going to have a class on printmaking so that you understand the difference between lithography, serigraphy, stone lithography, how plates are made, and just give you a little education with a very good friend of mine, Ray Taylor. And then the rest of the week is going to be a surprise, but we've got lots of exciting things happening. So just want to thank you once again for sharing the word. Art of the City TV, live streaming here on Facebook. And if you wouldn't mind, go to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. We record all of these, And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, that would be a big help for us, because we really want to share the word, where this is a grassroots kind of an effort here, and we appreciate you. So be blessed this weekend. Enjoy. You're still kind of on vacation. This thing's going to end pretty soon. And the next thing we're going to be saying is, why didn't we spend more time enjoying this while we could? So let's do that. And I'll look forward to seeing you Monday right here, Art of the City TV, live streaming on Facebook. Have a great weekend, folks.